During the college entrance exam, my best friend, who was sitting behind me, suddenly went crazy and tore my just finished answer sheet into pieces, rendering my exam score void. After the news spread, my best friend claimed online that I had been emotionally abusing her for a long time, causing depression and triggering an episode during the exam. Before long, a tidal wave of online abuse came crashing down on me. Wherever I went, people hurled insults at me. In the end, utterly disheartened, I jumped into a river and killed myself. Meanwhile, my best friend used this surge of traffic to become a million-follower internet celebrity and rise to the peak of her life. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to a year before the college entrance exam. This time, I'll make sure you suffer the consequences of your own actions. Nian Nian, your grades are so good, you'll definitely get into Tsinghua or Peking University. Right? I'm doomed. With my grades, I probably can't even get into a bachelor's program. On the playground, my best friend Nian was holding my H and looking at me with a pitiful expression as she spoke. I jolted upright, breaking out in a cold sweat. Didn't I just die? My best friend's coy, affected voice sounded in my ears again. Nian, once we get to college, I'm definitely going to be bullied by them. Could you not go to Tsinghua and Peking University and come with me to attend a junior college instead? The familiar conversation. I suddenly realized that I had been reborn back to my senior year of high school on the day the results of the first mock exam in my senior year came out in my previous life. My best friend suddenly dragged me to the school field for a walk and said the same thing to me. I was very torn at the time because I could have been admitted to Tsinghua and Peking University without the entrance exam through a competition. But my best friend said she wanted to spend those precious senior year days with me. I believed her and gave up my guaranteed admission spot. The principal and my homeroom teacher took turns trying to persuade me, but I remained unmoved. In the end, they could only sigh and go along with me anyway. Even if I took the college entrance exam, I would definitely still get into Tsinghua or Peking University. But now my best friend was making such a request of me again. After much hesitation, I still refused her. Nuan, the college entrance exam is a matter that affects your entire life. Please forgive me for not being able to give up Tsinghua and Peking University to go to a junior college with you. But I can help you review properly. I believe that with our joint efforts, you will definitely be able to make it onto the undergraduate cutoff line. But my best friend felt that I had betrayed her and began deliberately guiding our classmates to isolate me. I didn't fight back because my best friend and I were both orphans from the same orphanage, inseparable since childhood. I cherished this bond very much and didn't want to fall out with her. Therefore, over that long year, I silently endured all kinds of bullying from her and my classmates, putting all my focus into studying. After finally getting through senior year, the day of the college entrance exam arrived. Sitting in the exam hall, I was ready and eager. After 10 years of hard study, the time had finally come to prove myself. I would turn the sweat and tears from my day and night efforts into scores, send myself to the top university, and make sure that those who looked down on me and bullied me would never be able to lay a finger on me again. I held my breath and started answering the questions. This year's exam paper was much harder than usual, but it was no problem for me. After all, I was someone who had taken first place in both the national math and physics competitions. A mere college entrance exam was easy to handle. With 30 minutes left in the college entrance exam, I put down my pen. I examined my answer sheet with satisfaction, checking whether I had overlooked any details. Just then, my best friend's voice suddenly came from behind me. Nian, the multiple choice questions. I looked up at the proctor, and just as it happened, he was looking at me, too. The college entrance exam is such a sacred and serious matter. How could anyone possibly fake it? I pretended not to hear my best friend's words and kept checking the exam paper. But the next second, my best friend suddenly jumped up, laughing and crying at the same time. Who the hell set this lousy paper? It's so hard. None of you should write anymore. If you do, it'll still be wrong. Before she even finished speaking, she snatched the answer sheet from my desk and tore it to pieces. I was still out of it, and hadn't reacted yet when a chorus of screams suddenly rang me. I didn't see everyone simultaneously cover their answer sheets because at that moment all my attention was on my best friend's H, and that answer sheet, which carried my beautiful hopes for the future, had already been reduced to scraps, flung high into the air, and scattered all over the floor. The sudden, drastic turn of events caught me off guard, and I was unable to perform at my normal level in the exams that followed. My dream of going to college was shattered. After the exam ended, my best friend and I went back to the orphanage. The incident quickly shot to the top of the trending searches, and everyone was speaking up for me. The identities of my best friend and me were exposed, and tens of thousands of gossip seekers flocked to the orphanage. I spent the whole day in a daze, locking myself in my room and never going out. However, my best friend rode this wave of attention and started live streaming online. She shamelessly played the victim, saying I had been emotionally abusing her for a long time, which caused her to develop severe depression. She even claimed that before the exam started, I told her that someone like her, a piece of trash, would only be wasting exam papers if she went into the exam room. She said that this triggered her condition, and that was why she lost control during the exam, and accidentally tore up my answer sheet. In the blink of an eye, the public sentiment reversed. My best friend became a pure, delicate little white flower while I turned into a rat everyone wanted to beat and curse at. Everyone said I had brought this on myself, believing that the bullet I fired years ago had now struck me right between the eyebrows. Some self-righteous people even came to the orphanage gate to throw rotten eggs, dump trash, and send funeral wreaths. The younger brothers and sisters at the orphanage were utterly disappointed in me, and there was always someone chasing after me, hurling abuse. The orphanage mother could not bear such harassment and kicked me out. The teachers and classmates at school were afraid of being tainted by my bad luck, and they, too, kept their distance from me. I was homeless and could only stay in a small inn that cost 50 yuan a night, living on plain steamed buns. I didn't dare go out because as soon as I did, crazed netizens would live stream my movements, verbally abuse me, and even punch and kick me. Before long, the pocket money I had saved from odd jobs was gone, down to the last cent. The owner of the small hotel also kicked me out, hugging 2 dirty pieces of clothing and carrying that patched up, torn backpack. I curled up under the bridge, trembling all over. The beggars under the bridge discovered me. They dragged me to a deserted corner and abused me. I suffered one blow after another, and in the end, utterly despondent, I leaped off a bridge. After death, perhaps because my resentment was too strong, my soul kept wandering in the mortal world. No one noticed that I was missing until a week later. My body had swollen from soaking in the water and floated to the surface, and only then was it fished out. When the police recovered my body, it had already bloated grotesquely. Several young officers were so disgusted that they kept retching, and they casually stuffed me into a body bag and took me away. My best friend stood at the entrance of the crematorium, holding up her phone, crying with snot and tears streaming down her face. Family. Although Nian Nian treated me badly, we were still best friends once. I can't just watch her die and still have nobody properly bury her after death. The netizens were so moved by her that they cried their eyes out, and all rushed to send her heaps of gifts and red envelopes. Nuan, and the little fairy is truly too kind. Don't shed tears for such a vicious person. We will always support you. In the end, my ashes were taken away by my best friend and dumped into a manure pit. I could feel my body becoming lighter, and my consciousness gradually fading away. But I was truly unwilling to accept this. If only life could start over. Nian, please, I'm begging you. College life is supposed to be so wonderful. If I don't have you by my side, what am I supposed to do? Xian Wan shook my H, and, acting coquettishly toward me, I finally pulled my thoughts back from the past and looked at this overly affected best friend in front of me. I clenched my H and then slowly loosened them. Okay, I promise you, I never expected that I really had been reborn. This time, I would make Xian Wan pay back 100-fold. Xian Wan hadn't expected that I would actually agree to her request, and she happily threw her arms around me. Nian Nian, you're so wonderful. I knew it. We've been best sisters since childhood, and we're meant to be together for life. I stood rooted to the spot, my body stiff, neither hugging her back nor pushing her away. My eyes stung a little. Thank God for giving me the chance to restart my life. I will definitely seize this opportunity and change the fate of my past life. In the days that followed, I studied the high school material as diligently as ever, preparing for the college entrance examination next June. Seeing that I had no intention of giving up on Tsinghua and Peking University, as she had claimed, and was instead working even harder than before, Xian Wan couldn't help but grow suspicious. Nian Nian, let's skip class later and go out to buy milk tea. UG's shop has just launched a seasonal new product, and I heard it's really good. I kept my head down doing the test paper and answered her casually. Don't you know, I don't have any money to buy milk tea. Xian Wan pouted. Xian Wan and I were both orphans with nothing to our names. But her life was much more comfortable than mine. She was beautiful with big, round eyes, fair skin, and long, thick black hair. Add to that her knack for dressing up, and she could be considered a campus beauty at school. There were quite a few boys at school who admired her, and she always treated them with the same three-nose policy: no initiative, no rejection, no responsibility. That attitude only ignited those boys' competitive streaks even more. They all went all out to give Xian gifts and treat her to meals. I heard that a few thugs at school even set up a betting pool over who would become Xian's first love, and plenty of boys placed bets. Little did I know, Xian had already gotten involved with a boy from the orphanage when she was in elementary school. But I had dark yellow skin since childhood. Although I wasn't short, I was thin and hunched over with nothing remotely close to pretty about me. My tuition and miscellaneous school fees were paid by the orphanage, while my daily living expenses and pocket money were mainly saved up bit by bit from part-time jobs outside school during winter and summer vacations and on weekends. Xian knew all of this, so she didn't doubt the reason I gave. However, in order to keep me from studying, she was still willing to bleed a little. Xia, please come with me. My treat. I pretended to hesitate for a long while. Seeing that my attitude had softened, Xian reached out and directly pulled me up from my seat. Let's go. Once the bell rings, we won't be able to leave. Xian skillfully led me through the little grove on campus and around to an inconspicuous corner. There, she fiddled around by the wall for a moment and dug out a dog hole barely big enough for one person to squeeze through. My mouth twitched as I watched her deftly crawl out through the hole. Nian, hurry up! Xian outside the wall urged softly. I steeled myself and bent down to crawl out through the dog hole. Xian was being unusually generous. How could I not do as she wished? Soon, the two of us arrived at the snack street behind the school. Xian generously bought a pile of snacks and stuffed them into my hands. However, don't sneak bites. Okay. I only promised to buy you milk tea. I nodded speechlessly. This was the 6th time Xian had reminded me. At last, we arrived at the UG milk tea shop. Brother Yang. Xian pinched her voice and smiled sweetly at the blonde-haired young man in the milk tea shop who was busy making and shaken lemon tea. Brother Yang's eyes lit up when he saw Xian arrive. Nuan, you're here. Come in and have a seat. As she spoke, she came out to greet her from the shop and reached out to wrap an arm around Xian waist. My gaze fixed on the 7 or 8 centimeters long pinky fingernail on his and my stomach churned a little. He wouldn't be stirring milk tea with that fingernail, would he? Xian had already followed Brother Yang into the shop. Seeing me standing still, she urged impatiently, Come in. What are you standing there for? I walked in silently and sat opposite Xian. Brother Yang fiddled with the counter for a while, then brought out 2 cups of lemon water. Xian was a little unhappy with the lemonade. Brother Yang, I want a drink. What am I supposed to do without you? And berries. But Brother Yang said, Oh, sweetie, we've run out of strawberries in the shop today. I'll make you one next time. Okay. I sneered inwardly. Employees could drink the lemonade for free. But for seasonal new items like what am I supposed to do without you? And berries, even the staff had to pay for them. I'd worked at most of the shops around here, so I knew exactly what little scheme Brother Yang was up to. But I said nothing. Respecting others' fate is also a kind of virtue. Although Xianwan Yuan was dissatisfied, she still obediently drank the lemonade Yang Gu personally made for her. I watched coldly as the man and woman in front of me chatted more, and more suggestively, and sat closer, and closer, while Yang Jia's hands were fiddling with something underneath the table. Seeing that they were about to lose control and stage a live sex show right in front of me, I still couldn't hold back, and said, Nuan, it's getting late. Let's go have dinner at that Yang lamb skewers place together. I'll treat. Xian looked a little suspicious. You, a miser, are actually treating me one day. I looked aggrieved. Nuan, from childhood until now, have I ever treated you to too few things? How can you say that about me? The familiar formula. Xianwan's usual tactic. I could imitate it with ease. Xianwan also thought of how I had always been willing to share everything with her. So she no longer doubted me. She hooked her arm through Brother Yang's and walked with us toward Pleasant Goat Skewers. I walked in front, sneering inwardly. Xianwan, I've been acting with you for half a day, and I've also set up a big show for you. Are you ready? Pleasant Goat Skewers was a barbecue restaurant with good food. It opened at 4 p.m. every day, and was always packed. The three of us stood in line at the entrance for a long time before it was finally our turn for an empty table. Since I was treating, Xianwan wasn't polite at all, and grabbed a pile of ingredients. Lamb skewers, 20 of them. Beef skewers, 20 of them. Pork belly, 20 of them. Braised mud crab, get the large size seafood. Make it all the biggest and freshest. Even Yanghua, who's always loved to take advantage of free stuff, was feeling a little guilty. Nuan, there are only 3 of us. What's there to be afraid of? If we can't finish it, we can pack it up to go. Xianwan kept grabbing and grabbing. In the end, looking at those 5 or 6 baskets full of dishes I had finished, I sneered inwardly. This was my so-called good sister from childhood to adulthood. She always had. Good sisters don't need to be so calculating on her lips. But that only applied when she was taking advantage of me. The moment I wanted to borrow something from her, she would find some excuse to pick a fight with me, and then give me the cold shoulder for a few days. But today, I had no intention of playing the sucker. The reason I took the initiative to offer to treat was that at this very time in my previous life, a major incident that shook the whole country happened at Xiangyang lamb skewers. That day was the 10th anniversary of my acquaintance with Xianuanyuan. I hesitated, and eventually came to the shop, ordered 2 lamb skewers and 2 beef skewers, and wanted to celebrate with Xianuanyuan. But instead I accidentally witnessed that terrifying scene first. And 3 girls were eating barbecue in the shop, but were harassed by the thugs at the next table. The leader, after being smashed over the head with a beer bottle by one of the girls, flew into a rage and beat her into critical condition. The incident was exposed online, and netizens unanimously condemned those thugs. In the end, several of the thugs were sentenced, and the leader was given 30 years. However, even if she was sentenced to a severe punishment, it still could not make up for the suffering endured by the girl who was beaten. After she was sent to the hospital, the doctor regretfully said that her uterus had ruptured severely and had to be removed. This time, let Xianuanyuan suffer in place of his poor girl. Consider it the interest I'm collecting from her in advance. We waited at our seats for a long time before the grilled food was finally brought to the table. A table was filled with fragrant grilled meat, crab hot pot, and other dishes. I took out the fake perfume I had bought long ago from my backpack and put it on the table. Nuanyuan, this is the surprise I prepared for you. Xianuanyuan was a little stunned. I continued, don't you remember? Today is the 10th anniversary of our time at the orphanage, and also the 10th anniversary of when we met. Xianuanyuan said blankly, really? I pretended to say in dissatisfaction, how could you forget? And I even treated you like my best sister. Xianwanyuan didn't dwell on whether what I said was true because her age, and had already reached for the fake perfume I had placed on the table. This BR and is very expensive. I've only seen it on TV. I said with complete sincerity. Of course, the thing I'm giving you has to be the best. After that, I stood up, walked over to her, and said, 1 yuan, let me personally spray this perfume on you. And may you, like this bottle of perfume, have your fragrance drift for ends of miles. I sprayed it on her more than a dozen times in one breath. 1 yuan, and Brother Yang sneezed 4 or 5 times in a row. That's enough. That's enough. 1 yuan covered her nose. 1 yen, this perfume is way too pungent. It can't be fake. Can it? I continued to say with a wronged look. Maybe I don't have any experience, and sprayed too much, but I really didn't expect you to think that way. I'm truly so hurt. 1 yuan sneezed several more times, and it looked like her nose to start running. Forget it. Forget it. After a while, once the smell has dispersed a bit, it should be fine. The 3 of them ate and drank, and the sun quickly set. Boss, make a table available for us. I looked up and saw that familiar face. Here it comes. The boss quickly trotted over and cleaned off a table next to us, and the few of us sat down like that. Achoo! Damn it! Where's this heavy perfume smell coming from? The man scanned around and finally fixed his gaze on the few of us. I kept my head down eating the skewers, but with my peripheral vision, I kept following the tattooed man leading the group. Yo, what do we have here? A pretty little lady. Achoo! The tattooed, burly man frowned after sneezing. 1 yuan anxiously clutched the sleeve of the young Ji beside her, her eyes darting all around. Young Ji had long been trembling with fear. How could he spare any attention for 1 yuan beside him? This, big brother, is there something wrong? I pretended to be very scared, asking in a trembling voice. The tattooed, burly man tossed his latest Apple Pro Max phone onto the table and said in a gruff voice, You ugly woman, get out of the way. After saying that, he turned his lecherous gaze to 1 yuan, almost drooling. As soon as 1 yuan left the school gate, she took off her school uniform and changed into a super low-cut, tight-fitting dress. Her figure really was quite impressive. Big breasts, a slim waist, and 2 long, white, slender legs, although they weren't very long. The skirt that just barely covered her hips happened to conceal that flaw. But at this moment, this sexy outfit only turned her into a piece of fat meat in the eyes of a hungry wolf. Yanghua couldn't even speak. He shrank back in his seat, head lowered, not daring to move. 1 yuan was about the same, trembling so hard she was practically shaking like a sieve. Brother Chong plopped down beside 1 yuan and placed his H and on the girl's fair, smooth thigh, rubbing it back and forth. Little girl, what's your name? Want to make friends with brother? I carefully pushed the beer bottle on the table towards 1 yuan and said softly, Brother, she's still a high school student. Please don't make things difficult for her. Come on, have a drink. The burly man with tattooed arms cut me off in displeasure. Get lost, get lost, get lost. Then he looked 1 yuan up and down several more times with even more heated eyes. A high school student, he liked tender little fresh ones like her best. Yanghua and I were quickly dragged away by the tattooed strong man's underlings. Before leaving, I shouted loudly, 1 yuan, run. He's a bully. He'll torture you to death. One henchman of the burly tattooed man slapped me hard across the face. The blow was fierce, and blood oozed from the corner of my mouth. Even so, catching sight of 1 yuan's terrified look before being dragged outside still brought me a sense of satisfaction. Something's gone wrong. He's beating people up. He's beating people up. Brother Yang had long since slipped away. I waited in the roadside bushes for almost half an hour when all of a sudden I heard the barbecue shop erupt into a commotion. I poked out half my head and saw a group of people running out of the shop and scattering in all directions. Finally, it was 1 yuan and that burly man with tattooed arms. She had fallen to the ground and was being dragged out of the shop by her hair by the tattooed man like a rag all the way into an alley beside the barbecue restaurant. I could no longer see them and could only vaguely hear the tattooed man's curses. and Xian Wenyuan screams. At last, the wail of police sirens came from afar. By then, more than half an hour had passed since Xian Wenyuan was dragged into the alley. I slipped away quietly, feeling only a sense of satisfaction. Xian Wenyuan, this is what you deserve. In my past life, you ruined my reputation, and had me beaten, and ravaged by more than a dozen beggars under a bridge. And in the end I died a miserable death. What I did to you today is only a tiny fraction of what you did to me. As soon as I reached the school gate, the police were already waiting there. I lowered my head, trembling all over, and confessed everything. I said how helpless I was when I had to skip class with Xian Wenyuan. I said they forcibly dragged me away, and even hit me. I said I was scared, and helpless, not knowing what to do. By the end, I was already in tears, unable to finish a complete sentence. My behavior wasn't an act. At that moment, I was thinking of everything I had experienced in my past life, the fear and despair I had once gone through first H, and the police believed what I said, gave me a stern warning, and then left. The next day, the school gave me a verbal warning as punishment and didn't make it public. After all, I was a promising candidate for Tsinghua and Peking University, and they couldn't let me have even the slightest blemish. On the weekend, I went to the hospital to visit Xia. She was lying in a hospital bed, 1H and 1 foot wrapped in bandages, and her face was swollen into a pig's head. I felt secretly delighted, but on the surface I still looked full of concern and heartache. Wenyuan, what happened to you? Xian Wenyuan tried hard to open her eyes, but could only manage a slit. Yin Wenyuan, what are you trying to say? I can't hear you clearly. Xian Wenyuan grew so anxious that tears streamed down her face. I quickly pressed the nurse call button. The nurse came in very quickly. What happened? Nurse, I'm her friend. She looks like she's in a lot of pain. Is something wrong? I asked anxiously. The nurse came forward to take a look, then said to me, it's nothing serious. She probably just hurts too much. After all, she was seriously injured and had her uterus removed. So pain is inevitable. Sigh. The nurse looked sympathetic. She had seen this girl's ordeal online, and now the hospital staff were all talking about it these 2 days. Even going out for some barbecue can end up in an accident. As a girl, you still need to pay attention to your own safety. I looked utterly shocked. What? She had one of her uteruses removed? Yes. That thug stabbed her in the stomach with a chair leg more than a dozen times, brutally beating her until her uterus ruptured, and it had to be removed. The nurse's tone grew even more compassionate. I turned to look at my best friend, whose face on the hospital bed was beyond recognition, and 2 lines of tears fell from my eyes. After leaving the hospital, I washed dishes at a small diner outside campus for 2 days, and earned 300 yuan. This diner is where I'm currently working part-time. The owner is a divorced woman in her 40s, and she usually takes good care of me. Not only can I earn an hourly wage of 18 yuan here, but I also get free room and board, although I live in the storage room and have to help the proprietress look after the shop. I'm already very satisfied. The school doesn't provide housing on weekends, so Xian Wenyuan and I have to return to the orphanage every weekend. But the orphanage is in a remote location, and the round trip takes more than 4 hours in total. Starting in 11th grade, Xian Wan usually spent her weekends at her boyfriend's places. Later, after I came here, the L and lady agreed to let her stay at the shop on weekends. This was simply too convenient. I no longer had to get up before dawn to rush over. The time I saved could be used for doing practice questions and memorizing notes. During the 3 months while Xian Wan was in the hospital, I madly absorbed knowledge, putting all my body and soul into preparing for the college entrance examination. When the homeroom teacher saw me like this, he finally put his mind at ease. I heard that Xian Wan has already been discharged from the hospital and is now recuperating in the orphanage. She will probably still have to go to school next semester. Next semester, she had to get the principal to transfer Xian Wan to another class. She absolutely couldn't let her keep affecting Wenyan, this promising talent. Soon, final exams arrived. I wrote as if inspired by the gods, smoothly taking first place in the grade and pulling a full 30 points ahead of the second-place student. The scholarship was in the bag. I left school after packing my things up with satisfaction. I don't plan to do a part-time job during the winter break. First, New Year was approaching, and the shops near the school had all closed, so it was hard to find work. Second, I want to study hard and make thorough preparations for my college dream. So, I carried bag after bag back to the orphanage. I brought each of the children at the orphanage a lollipop. Don't blame me for being stingy. I'm a broke student myself. I have to save my school financial aid and my scholarship every semester for future college tuition. And in my previous life, when I was attacked by online mobs, not a single one of them reached out to help me. Instead, they pushed me step by step into the abyss of despair. I knew they simply didn't know the full story and had been deceived by Sion. I knew they just didn't want me to bring trouble to the orphanage. But I wasn't some saint who repaid evil with kindness either in this lifetime. It was impossible for me to give them any benefits. But when you're under someone else's roof, you still have to bow your head when you must. After all, she still had to live in the orphanage until she went to college for a full 6 months. She had to maintain a facade of cordiality. The children at the orphanage were overjoyed when they saw I was back, and rushed over all at once because every time I came back, I would bring them lots of gifts. There were exquisite toys, delicious snacks. The children in the orphanage hardly ever got any snacks or toys all year round, so they had been looking forward to my return for a whole month. But I only pulled out a pack of Chupa Chups from my bag. The children pouted in dissatisfaction. I sneered inwardly. Who isn't an orphan? Why should I use the money I worked so hard to earn to feed these ungrateful ingrates? I pretended not to notice their displeasure and said with a smile, "Take the C, Andy, and share it out, 1 piece each for everyone, and take the extra to Aunt Jang's place to use as prizes." The children still gathered around the plastic bag on the ground and started dividing it up. I went to the dormitory to visit Xianwanwan. The two of us have lived together since we were 7. And of course, we still do now. The bruises on Xianwanwan's face had already faded, but her H, N's, and feet were still wrapped in bandages. She lay on the bed, her eyes vacant, and her face sallow. It seemed she had not had an easy few months. I frowned. How long had it been since she last bathed? She even smelled. Xianwanwan, wearing a shabby floral padded jacket, shot me a sidelong glare. "Well, look who's back. The great talented lady. I thought you'd already looked down on our little temple here." I showed no emotion. What kind of thing is that to say? I grew up here since I was little. Can I come back now? Seeing that I actually dared to talk back, Xianwanwan immediately flew into a rage. "Wen Nian, aren't I in the state? Today. Because of you. You deliberately had me go to that barbecue shop, deliberately got those punks to notice me, and got me turned out like this. You must be very pleased with yourself. Right? This is nothing yet. The real good stuff is still ahead." That's what I was thinking inside. But on my face I looked utterly innocent. How could you think that about me? It was clearly you who forcibly dragged me to skip class. Otherwise, how could we have run into something like this? And I got hit, too. And I even spoke up for you, while your boyfriend didn't even dare say a word. I'm really so heartbroken. After saying that, I started sobbing. Xianwanwan was left speechless by me, and it took her quite a while to react. "You were the one who wanted to go to that barbecue place. If we hadn't gone to that restaurant, how could I have ended up beaten like this?" I stopped crying and sniffled as I said, "But you were the one who said you wanted barbecue before. And besides, I can't predict the future. How could I have foreseen something like that would happen?" Xianwanwan was silenced by me once again. She panted heavily, and it took her a while to suppress the anger in her heart. "You promised me back then that you would go to a junior college with me. So, why are the classmates saying that you've been studying hard these past few days?" I started sobbing again. "Isn't it because you insisted on dragging me to skip class the last time? Now, the principal and homeroom teacher are paying special attention to me. I also wanted to give up Tsinghua and Peking University and go to junior college with you. After all, you said that sisters who can endure hardship and share happiness together are all hypocritical, selfish scumbags. I really want to go to Tsinghua and Peking University, but I can't be the scumbag who betrays you, either." The more I said, the more anxious I became, and in the end, I burst into tears. Xiao Wan was half believing, half doubting, while I covered my face and cried as I ran out. Actually, it was because I really couldn't st, and the smell coming off her. It was way too foul. I asked Aunt Wang for a dorm room change. Of course, Aunt Wang wouldn't agree. She hated trouble the most. There were so many children in the orphanage, and with one thing from you, and another from me, she wouldn't have a free moment all day. But when I took out the Korean ginseng I had bought for her, and told her I would take over her night shift for her tonight, Aunt Wang cheerfully agreed to my request, and arranged for me to stay in the room closest to the stairs. I moved my luggage to the new room. This made Xianu Anyuan unhappy. She had been counting on me to serve her personally. Xianu Anyuan called out to me, "Nian Nian, didn't you say we were the best of sisters? Why did you leave me as soon as I got sick?" I sighed and said, "Nu Anyuan, I really had no choice. Wang Mama is getting old, and I don't want her to have to stay up all night at her age. But if I were to take her place, I'd have to get up in the middle of the night. I was just afraid it would affect your sleep." Xianu Anyuan continued, "I don't mind. Anyway, I'm lying in bed every day now, so I can sleep whenever I want. Isaidegen, Nu Anyuan, I know you can't bear to part with me, and how could I be any different? But I can't disturb your rest just because I don't want to be apart from you. That's it. I'm leaving now." I ignored Xianu Anyuan's furious shouting behind me and hurried out of the room. I was practically getting stunk up just like that, under the guise of keeping night watch. I was able to keep the lights on until midnight. Under the warm yellow glow of the ink andescent lamp, I recited ancient poems, read classic works, and tackled difficult problems. I voraciously absorbed knowledge, letting it all sink into my brain. The college entrance examination was getting closer and closer, and there was still so much knowledge I hadn't mastered. I had to work even harder, but Xianu Anyuan would never allow me to climb even a single step upward. She would do everything she could to drag me down, make me st, and with her in the abyss, or even trample me beneath her feet. That day, before I was fully awake, I was yanked out of bed by Aunt Wang. "Xianu Anyuan, what exactly did you do?" I was completely bewildered. "Aunt Wang, what are you talking about?" Aunt Wang shoved her old phone right in front of me. "Take a good look yourself. Someone exposed you online for bullying a classmate at school and gaslighting her for a long time, which caused her to develop severe depression." I jolted awake and quickly picked up the phone to scroll through the news article. Among the 10 trending topics on Jialong, 6 were actually related to campus bullying. Xianu Anyuan moved ahead of time. She launched this massive online smear campaign with a tear-streaked little essay, hoping to pin me to the pillar of shame just like in my previous life. But I was no longer that naive little softy. She didn't know that after my rebirth, I secretly recorded every conversation with her. Every time I gave her a gift or helped her with her homework, I kept a record. I shared my study materials with my classmates for free, earning their praise in return. I promised the school that after getting into Tsinghua and Peking University, I would vigorously promote the school's teaching style and academic atmosphere and strive for the teacher support. After this happened, I didn't even take the initiative to look for the school's teachers or classmates, and they recorded a video on their own to clear my name. I'm Wang Ruoting from Senior Year Class 1, and I'm speaking up for Wen Nian. She's a kind, upright, and friendly classmate. Whenever we have any difficulties in our studies, she always helps us enthusiastically. I'm Su Huichao Senior Year Class 1, and I'm speaking up for Wen Nian. Wen Nian is very popular in our class, and she has never bullied any classmate. I'm Wang Yu from Senior Year Class 1. I am Xia Shiner from Senior Year Class 1. I and the video lasted 20 minutes, and all the classmates in the class except Xianu Anyuan spoke up for me. Who was SL and-earing me was self-evident. Xianu Anyuan's little essay, no held up, but not long after another little essay appeared online. It roughly said that I had joined forces with the teachers and classmates in our class to collectively isolate her, and that she couldn't st in alone. She no longer wanted to live. The netizens started wavering again, watching the increasingly heated debate online. I smiled in satisfaction seeing the online buzz grow hotter and hotter. I casually left a reply under both little essays. I'm the girl this classmate is talking about, the one who bullied her. If you got a problem, come at me. I set my Weibo profile so that people had to follow me before they could reply. In no time, countless netizens flooded into my account, and in just 1 hour, I had amassed 100,000 followers. I posted a full 36-page PDF screenshot laying out in clear detail the history between me and that classmate who had been isolated, bullied, and excluded. Every single incident was backed by evidence, and I thoughtfully included QR codes. By scanning them, you could listen to audio clips of conversations between me and Sianu Anyuan, or watch footage from surveillance videos provided by the school in order to protect me, this promising student with a shot at Tsinghua and Peking University. The school didn't even care about saving face anymore. My PDF was wildly reposted, and everyone was stunned after reading it. There are actually such shameless people in this world. I've really seen it all. Asking her best friend to give up Tsinghua and Peking University to accompany her in taking the college entrance exam for a junior college. Ridiculousness, level 100%. Her best friend actually agreeing to such an outrageous dem. And ridiculousness, level 10,086%. The incident took another turn, and the netizens were like melon-munching monkeys in a watermelon field, excitedly jumping up and down. I closed the laptop and shut out all the noise on the other end of the network cable. School is about to start, and I asked Mom Wang to let me go back to school early. Sianu Anyuan is a total lunatic. After such a shock, who knows what stupid thing she might do this time? Although she lies in bed every day and can't go anywhere, I don't plan to keep wasting time here with her. A gentleman does not st, and beneath a crumbling wall. I live in a small restaurant next to the school. The owner's wife came back on the 8th day of the Lunar New Year. Business has been slow lately, so they don't need me, but she still agreed to let me stay in the shop. I proactively helped her with the work, being very considerate and perceptive. I didn't take her wages on the first day of school. The boss lady gave me a red envelope. My eyes stung a little. The boss lady was really good to me in my past life. Under the pressure of public opinion, she didn't take me in, but she still gave me 1,000 yuan to help me get through a difficult period. If I have the chance in the future, I hope I can properly repay her kindness in both lifetimes. School had started, but Sianu Anyuan did not come to school. Her injuries still hadn't healed completely, and besides that incident, her reputation at school was already completely ruined. She probably didn't even have the face to come back. Her not coming was just fine. I could keep studying like crazy. The homeroom teacher also breathed a sigh of relief. With that troublemaker gone, the class's learning atmosphere was much better. Because I kept pushing myself so hard, my classmates were unknowingly driven along by me. Everyone was diligently working through practice questions and memorizing key points. By the time the 4th mock exam came around, our class actually had 8 students ranked in the top 100 in the entire city. Of course, I was still firmly in first place. The homeroom teacher's eyes crinkled into 2 smiling chrysanthemums. She held my H and said cheerfully, "Having you is truly my blessing." When there was still 1 month left before the college entrance examination, Sianu Anyuan returned to school. The school leaders advised her to repeat the year. After all, she had been delayed for so long that she had long since fallen behind everyone else's pace. But she insisted on staying in her original class. The school leaders couldn't insist, so they could only let her do as she pleased. But the homeroom teacher treated it like a crisis, directly moving her seat to the back corner of the last row and placing me right next to the podium. I sighed helplessly. Under the same roof, how could just a few meters of distance possibly stop her from wanting to hurt me? Sian Yuan no longer pretended to be my best friend. She sat quietly in her seat. When she was sleepy, she slept, and when she woke up, she would stare at me with those round, wide eyes, looking sinister and eerie. I felt as if I had a thorn in my back, but she did nothing at all. Everyone in the class was staring at her intently, afraid she might pull something. But there's only a thousand and days of being a thief. There's no thousand and days of guarding against one. That afternoon, all the students in the class, except me and Sian Yuan, suddenly suffered from stomach pain. and diarrhea, with none spared. The homeroom teacher was so scared that cold sweat broke out all over him. He immediately called emergency services and also contacted the school leadership at the hospital. Ambulances lined up in a long queue, and they were sent to the hospital 5 to a vehicle. After a brief examination, the doctor immediately gave them blood tests and stool tests. Leaders from the Education Bureau, Health Bureau, and Public Security Bureau also arrived one after another. As soon as the doctor saw the situation, he quickly arranged for everyone's samples to be processed urgently. Soon, the test results came out, and to everyone's shock, rat poison had been found in all of the student samples. When I heard the news, I subconsciously looked at Xian Yuan. She was looking at me, too, her gaze deep and eerie. My hair stood on end. She had already gone insane. The police arrived quickly to investigate, and soon discovered that the rat poison had been put into everyone's water cups. Luckily, one packet of poison had been divided into more than 30 portions, so its potency had been greatly reduced, which prevented anyone from dying. Meanwhile, I kept myself on edge the whole time, constantly guarding against that crazy woman. I absolutely refused to touch any food that had been out of my sight, and I even spent a lot of money on a water cup with fingerprint unlock. So, I managed to escape disaster, since Xian Yuan and I were the only 2 students in the class who hadn't been poisoned. The police focused their suspicions on the 2 of us, but I had a clear conscience, and she answered every question flawlessly. Unfortunately, our school was an old, rundown one, and there were no surveillance cameras in the classroom. The police investigated for several days, but there was still no progress. As the exam time drew ever closer, the teachers and students all panicked. Fortunately, although there was no evidence, everyone knew full well who had done it. Xian Yuan was forcibly taken out of the class by the teacher on the excuse that her fundamentals are too weak, and she needs individual tutoring. The school specially assigned 6 teachers from Chinese, math, English, physics, chemistry, and biology to provide her with careful one-on-one guidance. So, when I passed by that classroom, I saw this absurd scene. Xian Yuan had her legs crossed, slumped in her chair, and dozing off, while the teacher on the podium stood upright, sweating profusely as he explained the problem. My mouth twitched hard a few times. This was truly outrageous, but under the round-the-clock watch of the 6 teachers, Xian Yuan even had someone accompanying her when she went to the bathroom. At last, she had no chance to make a move against us. Finally, the day of the college entrance exam arrived. It was still the same familiar test paper, and this time I finished all the questions even faster. Sitting behind me was Xian Yuan. I could feel her staring at me like a venomous snake, but I had nothing to fear. Weird sounds of crying and laughter came from behind me. Here it comes. I sat stiffly in my chair, helplessly watching as she snatched away my answer sheet and tore it to pieces. Ha ha ha, ha ha ha. Laughter having succeeded, she looked at me with a smug expression and let out a shrill burst of laughter. My face was full of sorrow. Why? Why is this happening? Xian Yuan was quickly taken away by force, and I lost the score for one subject. What happened in the exam hall once again ignited public opinion, and the internet was in an uproar. Sharp-eyed netizens quickly recognized that I was the girl who, 6 months ago, had been wrongly accused of bullying a classmate, and they all expressed sympathy for me. In just 3 days, my Weibo followers had reached 3 million. As for Xian Yuan, classmates exposed that she had been the one spreading the rumors online back then, and also revealed a string of her dark history. Netizens were all stunned and thoroughly enlightened. This woman is way too crazy. This is a classic case of, if I can't have it, I'll destroy it. If you run into someone like this in real life, you'd better stay far away from her. You never know when you might accidentally offend her, and then she'll latch onto you like a venomous snake. People like this will hate you as long as you're doing better than her. Remember the poisoning case in a university dormitory? Xian Yuan was arrested a few days ago. She had just turned 18, the perfect time to start living independently. On the day of the trial, I sat in the courtroom gallery and heard Xian Yuan's sentencing with my own ears. After trial, It was found that on the morning of June 7th in X year at 11:00 a.m., during the National Unified College entrance examination held at the defendant Xianu Anyuan, due to losing control of her emotions, openly tore up another C candidate's answer sheet. This act not only invalidated that C candidate's score in a single subject, and seriously infringed upon that person's right to education, but also caused chaos in the solemn college entrance examination venue, resulting in an extremely adverse social impact. In order to uphold the law and maintain social fairness and justice, the following judgment is rendered. The defendant is sentenced to 5 years imprisonment. Xian Wanwan really cried. She never expected that her momentary impulse would lead to such serious consequences. While crying, she shouted, "I didn't do it on purpose. I was having a depressive episode and couldn't control my actions." But the bailiff took her away without hesitation. She had already undergone a psychiatric evaluation, and there was nothing wrong with her at all. A month later, Xian Wanwan asked to meet me in prison. After thinking for a moment, I decided to go and say a final goodbye to her. Through the thick glass, I quietly watched her crying and laughing on the other side. Her originally jet-black hair, like a waterfall, had been cut off, and her fair, delicate face was now sallow and dark, with both cheeks deeply sunken, making her look at least 10 years older. When she had cried herself out, I picked up the phone and said coldly, "Xian Wanwan, you think tearing up my exam paper can hurt the enemy by 800 while costing yourself 1,000. And you're far too naive." Xian Wanwan's eyes suddenly lit up. She glared at me fiercely. "What do you mean by that?" I trembled slightly, slowly raised my head, and revealed the confident smile of a victor. "Fool! I already applied in advance to the world's top-ranked Massachusetts University. Having already seen how crazy she was, how could I not have made preparations on both fronts?" Xian Wanwan had gone completely insane. She wailed at the top of her lungs. Tears and snot smeared all over her face, while muttering, "I was wrong. I was really wrong." Had she finally realized her mistake? Impossible. She was only regretting that she hadn't been ruthless enough with me. But she would never get another chance. I hung up the phone and turned to leave. The school held a commendation ceremony for me to celebrate my receiving a full scholarship to the University of Massachusetts. In just 1 month, I will shoulder my backpack, cross the ocean, and study the world's most advanced aerospace technology, then return with that knowledge and keep striving for my country and nation to ST and tall among the world's great powers. With the dust settled, I left a message on Zaria. The college entrance examination is an important milestone in life, but it is by no means an excuse to act without restraint or vent emotions recklessly. Fair competition and honest testing are the duty of every examinee. Any behavior that challenges the rules, undermines fairness, or infringes on the rights and interests of others will surely be severely punished by law. Since then, I close my account and will meet again at the peak. 5 years later, I completed my studies ahead of schedule and returned to my Hummel, and with a doctorate, becoming an important member of the National Space Administration. Whenever I had time, I would also go back to the little restaurant where I used to work part-time to spend some time with my godmother. That's right, she's the owner. We relied on each other and became family to one another. There, I ran into an old classmate from the past. She told me that Xianu Enyuan released from prison a few years ago, but everyone knew what she had done, so she couldn't find a job. So, she went to work as a hostess at a bar because there were too many customers. She caught an illness and died last year. No one has even claimed her ashes. They're still piled up at the crematorium. Should I go get them back? She treated me that way, so I'll give it all back to her, exactly as she gave it to me. Forget it. There's no need for that. When a person dies, it's like a lamp going out. I'm not forgiving her. I just don't want to keep the unpleasant things from the past in my heart because it isn't worth it. I have to go to the Northwest tomorrow. This project may last several years, so I'd rather spend my limited time on people who are worth it. Godmother, you sit down. Let me show you what I can do. After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comment section.